Rappers you didn't know that were behind bars.
And it just didn't work out for you?
Hell no, I got arrested and then...
Arrested for what?
Yeah.
Do you want to win any of these items on your screen? If so, be sure to watch the whole video, leave a like, and comment the hidden message. And with that being said, let's get right into the video. There's a stigma out there in the world that every rapper ends up in jail, but that's a lie. However, there have been many rappers over the years who have found themselves behind bars and have tried to cover it up. So be sure to like the video and comment the keyword to win the giveaway. Number 7, Lil Yachty.
You can't speak on it? Is that serious?
I could speak on it. I just don't want to talk about it.
It can't be that bad.
Kicking off this list is the rapper Lil Yachty. Lil Yachty is actually one of the more popular young rappers in the game right now, mainly because he keeps his head down and he knows exactly what his music is and isn't afraid to work hard in order to get the results he wants. But in 2015, Lil Yachty did something very illegal, where he and another man were arrested in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. On what charge, you may be wondering? Credit card fraud of all things. Yeah, no, that's weird for a rapper to get arrested for. And well, that's because that was before he became a rapper. He didn't know what he wanted to do with his life, but after getting arrested, Lil Yachty realized that if he didn't take control of his life, he'd never be anything. I remember being in jail, like, man, I'm not old enough. But then I thought, I just turned 18. I just turned old enough to be put in big people jail. It wasn't necessarily getting arrested, but when I got out of jail, I went back to Alabama. So sure enough, after that, Lil Yachty went on the path that led him to be a rap star. So in his case, going to jail briefly saved his life. Number 6, A$AP Rocky.
Manager says the 30-year-old was acting in self-defense as the men refused to stop following their entourage and became physical.
Let's continue on with a currently popular rapper who was in jail up until very recently. And what's more, he was not even in jail in the United States, but rather in Sweden under some very curious circumstances. This is the tale of A$AP Rocky. He was in Sweden for a concert when an altercation with a couple of men happened one night. According to reports, the incident between the two men and A$AP Rocky along with his entourage occurred. When it happened, Rocky apparently took it too far, and a video clip actually showed him taking it to the extreme. There's a difference between self-defense and not self-defense in the eyes of the Swedish police. Because of this, he was not only just going for the offense, he was considered a flight risk, which given his status in the country and the fact that he was an American is a fair conclusion.
A$AP Rocky is in more trouble than we initially thought, and Swedish authorities have no plans to release him anytime soon.
However, A$AP Rocky has maintained his innocence in the matter, not the least of which is because of the 2 videos he put on his Instagram page that apparently shows in his mind proof that they were being followed by some men, and that he and his crew weren't trying to start something. Because of him being detained in Sweden and many of the United States demanding that he be released, especially when reports came out that the prison was in pretty bad shape in regards to the habitation and cleanliness. What's more, he was apparently put into solitary confinement and only given 1 apple to eat a day, and that's all. The US government even got involved, with President Donald Trump getting into saying that A$AP Rocky should be treated with the most respect possible. They detained A$AP Rocky for 2 weeks while the investigation gathered evidence in regards to the matter. And in a twist, they not only didn't listen to the US in regards to release, they decided to take him to court. Which brings us to August of 2018, where a court ruled that he was found guilty of the crimes. The court finds that the defendants were not in a situation where they were entitled to self-defense. The court says in a statement posted on its website. So that's it, right? He's in jail for a while there. Well, not so fast because of the kind of assault that he was accused of and the fact that the victims were noted as leaving the country after they were released by the court. The rapper and his entourage were given a conditional sentence, which meant that he only needed to pay a fine and not serve any more jail time. Needless to say, A$AP Rocky was thrilled that he was free and recently came back to the United States, and that being said, the situation is one that's going to stick with him for a while. After his release, he made this post on Instagram. I am of course disappointed by today's verdict. I want to say thanks again to all of my fans, friends, and everybody who showed me love during this difficult time. I'm gonna keep moving forward. Number 5, Lil Pump.
So I'm on probation in LA. I just violated my PO, so I gotta go in and do a couple months.
Lil Pump is a prime example of rappers known as mumble rappers. And like most in this subgenre of rap, he prides himself on the controversial acts of music that gets him into trouble and thus boosts his credibility in the industry. If you were to take a poll though, you'd likely find in this list that Lil Pump is most likely going to be in jail soon, but ironically, he's already been there, though admittedly not for a long stretch of time. So what happened? Well, it was a series of events that led to this happening. Specifically, he had an incident where he discharged a piece inside of his mother's house. The item wasn't his, and he tried to hide it when the police came to investigate the scene. He claimed that there was someone trying to break into the house, but the evidence towards that wasn't substantial. And at the time, Lil Pump wasn't put in jail, but rather was put on probation, which would have been a clue for him to straighten out, but he didn't. Instead, despite having his driver's license revoked, he went and drove and got pulled over by a cop, who found out that he had no license and was thus then arrested and thrown into jail. Ironically, he was supposed to spend many months in jail, but at the most, he spent a couple, which says to us that a deal was worked out behind the scenes because we highly doubt that he got off for good behavior. Anyway, since he's gotten arrested a couple more times, including getting arrested in such a way that he was eventually banned from Denmark for 2 whole years, yeah, that's like reverse psychology jail in a way, because they didn't want him in the country. So they just make sure that he couldn't come back for some time. While he's been mostly quiet on the arrest front since then, he still causes controversies with his acts and music, so it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that he'll be back in jail soon. Number 4. 50 Cent. One of the true OGs of modern rap, 50 Cent has made his impact in the world in many ways, including having one of the biggest rap albums ever via Get Rich or Die Trying. But he's had many brushes with the law that have led him to either jail in a certain way or have gotten him very close to being there for a long time. His first brush with the law came when he was a teenager, many years before his rap career. To try and make it through life, 50 Cent went and sold illegal substances on the streets, which eventually got him in trouble because he sold some of them to an undercover officer. Yikes. Anyway, he got arrested later on for having possession of said illegal substances, and that's what led him to getting put in front of a judge. He was almost put away in jail for 3 to 9 years, but instead he went to a boot camp of sorts, and he was there for 6 months or so while getting his GED. Which, if you think about it, school is kind of a prison, so Anyway, after he got into the rap life, you'd think that he'd calm down and enjoy the ride, right? Well, yeah, eventually he did, but before that point, he went and got himself into many feuds that turned very violent, and he was nearly jailed for some time for some of them. What's more, there was even an altercation with a girlfriend that he had that led to being charged with the mistreatment of a significant other and facing up to 5 years in prison. He got off on the charges, but it was another close call. Nowadays, 50 Cent is very far from the action of the rap game, and that might be the best for him because if he were to relapse, it would likely end up with him in jail, and that's not a good thing. Number 3. YNW Melly.
He has court tomorrow, right? Now you can check him out right now being walked inside the courtroom.
Going to a rapper who is definitely now in jail, let's look at the very odd and somewhat disturbing case of YNW Melly. He was arrested for taking the lives of his friends, though it wasn't as simple as the charge would lead you to believe. This all got started when he and his friend Cortland Henry went to the hospital to get help for his 2 friends, Anthony Williams and Christopher Thomas Jr. According to Cortland, he and his friends were driving out in town in the early parts of the morning after a recording session when they were caught in a drive-by. According to him, a car pulled up to the passenger side of the vehicle and unloaded. Though Cortland was unharmed, the others most definitely were not. Upon reaching the hospital, the 2 passed away. At first, this very much looked like a crime that was a drive-by, but certain details didn't add up, like how the car seemed to be relatively undamaged on the outside of only 8 holes, how Cortland didn't even have a scratch on him, and most importantly, the way that William and Thompson Jr. were hit. Something just wasn't adding up here. But one of the biggest tipping points was that a shell casing was found inside the car. When a weapon is discharged, the shell flies out either backwards or to the side and not to the front of the weapon. Even in close proximity, it would have never ended up in the car. In this case, the left rear side of the vehicle, which is the opposite side of where the holes were located. And so the police investigated further, and when they did, they looked at the video footage of the studio that Cortland mentioned that they were at that night. Sure enough, they were there, but also was YNW Melly, and he got into the car with them and sat in the exact spot that the shell casing was found inside the vehicle. After questioning YNW Melly, he admitted that he was in the car, but he got out after the incident for whatever reason. Needless to say, they didn't buy this reasoning based on all the evidence that they had. They arrested him and charged him with the passing of his 2 friends. Due to the severity of the crime, YNW Melly was held in jail without bond, and then was later noted that the state of Florida was going after the capital punishment for him because of the heinous nature of the crimes. Perhaps the biggest irony of the situation is that despite the overwhelming evidence against him, he maintains that he's innocent, pleading not guilty in the court, and in July noting that he would be home soon because he was innocent. He has not been released since that time, but he's keeping up his image by announcing a new album coming from him soon, and you can give him props for that kind of confidence. But that's all about you can do because he's also being linked to the passing of a deputy officer from a few years ago. So it looks like one way or another, he's going to be put in jail for the rest of his life, and he can honestly say that it's all his fault. Number 2. Lil Wayne. As we've shown you on this list, there are many different kinds of rappers, and when it comes to Lil Wayne, he may be one of the best ever, but he's also one of the most airheaded also, because he makes all sort of dumb decisions that backfire on him constantly. And in one case, he ended up in jail for a year. In 2010, Lil Wayne pleaded guilty to attempted criminal possession of a weapon. This wasn't the first time he was charged with a crime, and it certainly won't be the last, but it was the one that seemed perfectly primed to put him inside. But here's the twist. Just before he was going to be sentenced, he had to delay the sentencing for a personal matter. What matter, you may be wondering? Well, he had to go to his dentist for some surgery. Yeah, that really happened. You can look it up yourself if you don't believe me. And if this wasn't enough, once everything was set to be sentenced up again, a fire broke out and delayed it again. That's some crazy luck. Am I right? Anyway, it ran out though, because on March of 2010, Lil Wayne was given a 1-year sentence, which he served out in Rikers Island. He did indeed serve it, although he did have some issues with contraband on the inside, which again enforces that he's been a bit of an airhead when it comes to the law and how it should be followed. However, he kept his head down and was able to get through the sentence with no other major issues. Wayne was then released from Rikers jail jail on November 4th of 2010 after serving 8 months of his year-long sentence. So all told, he didn't have the longest of prison sentences, and it's clear that it didn't wisen him up because he went right back to doing some very dumb things, not the least of which was trying to cheat out the IRS out of money via his tax returns. Because over the course of about 10 years, which lines up with his jail sentence, he had failed to file 4 different tax returns correctly, which ended up costing him over $33 million as a result. This easily could have landed him in jail had he not been able to pay back the money. So as you can see, Lil Wayne is not the smartest tool in the shed. Number 1, 6ix9ine.
And a gang member who recently pled guilty to 9 felonies and is facing 47 years in prison.
Okay, I highly doubt that you didn't know that 6ix9ine wasn't in jail, mainly because his case has been all over the news the last several months for a wide variety of reasons. But given all that's happened to him and what he has done, it's actually a little surprising that he still is in prison. After all, he ratted out just about everyone that he could. So let's rewind a bit. In November of 2018, 6ix9ine and many other members of his former crew, whom he fired 2 weeks beforehand, were arrested by the FBI. Yeah, the FBI. They've been making a case against him for various crimes and arrested him for racketeering, conspiracy, possession with the intent to sell, and much more. Fast forward a few months, and after being left in jail for some time, the government offered him a plea deal, one that he most definitely accepted, that subsequently ratted out all of his former crew members as well as many others in his former group known as the Trey Nines in order to help fight off his potential life sentence. Sure enough, his efforts were able to get a lot of convictions and sentences pretty much on everyone on the crew, and more likely on the way. As for 6ix9ine, his sentencing is scheduled for September at the present time. His lawyers are hoping that they'll be able to get him off for time served, as well as being fully cooperative in regards to the plea deal that he got. Whether he does get released early is a bit up in the air, however, it should happen. He'll never be able to call himself a true rapper because he became a rat to get out. And that's a major no-no in this community. And so there you have it, a series of rappers who have been to jail at some point of their lives. So what do you think of that? Can you believe some of the things that these rappers went to jail for? Also, do you think that they'll ever go back? And what rapper on this list do you think will go to jail next? Let me know in the comments down below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time on King Trending. A simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's really your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Go for it.